I'm in Shenandoah National Park, and this is the Pinnacles Picnic Area. The tables and pavilion is over the hill there. I'll do a quick 360 here. It's looking down into the valley. Skyline drives down that way. I've got a rental car today. This one's white instead of gray. So we're going to close up the rental car and head down to Skyline Drive, and then we're going to turn right and go down here to the next hairpin turn, and then down the side of the mountain a little ways, looking for the ruins of the Sexton Shelter. There was a shelter here near the Appalachian Trail back in the 1930s, but when they created the park, they pulled it out. So go down here and take a look. Four-tenths of a mile into my hike. The elevation here is 3260. That's where I came from, down Skyline Drive. I met a sharp bend in the road. There's mile marker 37. And on the inside of this bend, down over the edge there, is where the old shelter was located. So I'm gonna start bushwhacking down that way. Alrighty, well, this looks like the old road right here. Up there is you're looking at the inside of that turn, and then my car's parked up that way on Skyline Drive. So here's the road heading down here. Now it looks like in terms of topology, once you get down here a little ways, the shelter would have been over this way. So I'm going to head over this way. That looks like relatively flat terrain over there, so let's head on down the road. Six-tenths of a mile into my hike. I'm down to 3,200 feet. There's where I came from. I don't know if you can make that out or not, but I've been following the road. Now I'm standing at a point where it goes off in two different directions. That's heading to the left, and this way is headed to the right. So I'm going to take the right branch here first, because I think there's an old pump house down here. I saw that in the Shenandoah land records. So we'll go down here first and check that. Actually, I can see it from here in the distance down that way. So we'll go down and check out the old pump house, and then we'll come back up here and head to the left. This is the way that should take us over in the area where the shelter was. Okay, well, there's the pump house. Here's the road coming down. If you just, when you come down from the Skyline Drive, if you take the right branch of the road, it'll bring you right here. That's my GPS telling me I'm at the pump house. I got the coordinates for the pump house out of the Shenandoah online land records. They showed this building here. I'll get closer and get a few stills. Okay, well, I'm down here. It's real wet and squishy down in through here. That's like a swamp. The road's over there. I'm going to stick my head in the window there and see what I can see. But this basically a reinforced concrete building. There's a pipe. That looks like an output pipe. Over here, sorry for the jiggly camera, but I got to watch where I'm walking. There's a steel door here, locked. And that looks like, I hear water running. So that might be a spring that they tapped into, or possibly a well. This whole area is eroded really bad though. See that? The whole edge of that's the whole edge of the building right there, all eroded away. There's a bunch of drainage coming down through here. Right there, that's drainage coming down through here. So yeah, let's I'll get a few stills if there's anything inside there, and then I'm gonna head back towards the other branch of this road. Seven-tenths of a mile into my hike. The elevation here is 3,200 feet. I followed the road. This is the left fork in the road. I followed it. That's where I came from. And maybe you can, I don't know, hopefully you can see the general width of the road there. Now, all of a sudden, when you get to this bend in the mountain, this area here is a lot wider around this turn. Now up there it's pretty steep. This almost looks dug out to me. This could have been the area where the shelter was. Now over there, down there is like drainage. Oh, right there, I'll get a still picture. Down there I see a piece of a clay pipe laying on the ground. So that came from someplace. I will, oh, and over that way I think I might see an old benchmark, Park Service benchmark. So we'll explore this area here. Somewhere in this general vicinity is where it was, the Sexton Shelter. Well, after looking around for a while, I decided I moved my Sexton Shelter location about 120 feet to this area right here. This area is looks dug out to me, and here's the road coming up around the bend. The last video I shot at the bend was right down there. That's the bend. I came up this way. See how this road, and then it widens out here. The road widens out. And then there's this area here that's looks a lot different than the rest of the terrain here. It's flat. It looks dug out. And it's all covered with leaves like this. See this? So I'm thinking this is it. So I moved it to here. And then when I get home, I'll compare that to the old maps and see how close that agrees. I'm going to look around a little more. Well, that's interesting. I thought that was a Park Service benchmark, but it says U.S. Geological Survey. I can't, there's an N stamped in it. I'm guessing I'm guessing that's pointing north. And then I can't read the alphanumeric, it's all scratched up. But anyway, U.S. Geological Survey benchmark down here in the middle of nowhere. Now there's the benchmark, and right up there is where I was saying looked kind of dug out, where the shelter could have been. And then you can see all these rocks, everything's all armored up, heading back out that way. Well, there's a piece of clay pipe. It's not buried, so it's probably been picked up and moved a few times, but it's, I don't know if that's drainage pipe or a small flue pipe. Another really weird thing is this right here almost looks like part of a road, but I don't know where it would go to. I'll follow it down here a little ways and see if I see anything. Well, there is an old iron pipe. It looks like your typical pipe for a spring, but it's dried up. Of course, it's in this, I guess this must be a stream bed then. Down through here. The location for the shelter would, where I think it was, is up that way. Not too far from here, up that way, just a little bit. And then there's, I guess there's this stream that runs down through here. There it is, running downhill. But that's an old iron pipe that they put into the ground for a spring. But it's kind of odd because it's dried up, but the stream bed here is all wet and squishy. So there's water in the stream. Not much, but a little. But that's totally dry. And the way it's rusted on the inside, it looks to me like it's been dry for a while, because it's rusted all the way around on the inside. Okay, well, I'm back to the area where I think the shelter would have been. The spring is down that way. So this area where I'm standing, where the shelter would have been, is uphill slightly from that. I'll do a 360 starting at that big tree there. This whole area, it could have been anywhere in this area. I don't see any rock piles. Now, my theory on that is and I'll show you the pictures of the shelter when I do the map talk, but the shelter looked to me like it was made out of some kind of a stone, maybe a lighter colored stone, like tan colored or something, that came from a quarry. And it could be that they when they took the shelter out, it could be when they took the shelter out that stone was valuable enough to them that they carted it off. Because there's a lot, this is the Pinnacles Picnic Area is just right above me, up there, about, a half a mile. So it's very possible that they hauled that stone out of here and used it for some other building. As opposed to this gray colored stone that you see everywhere here in the park. When it's just that kind of gray rock, there's so many of them, they just pile them up. But I don't see any of that stone like in the pictures. So it's possible they dismantled the thing and hauled off the stone. Anyway, that's the way out of here, so I'm going to start heading back towards my car. Well, I climbed out of the abyss, and I'm back up on Skyline Drive. Here's the turn. That's where I went in to the wilderness there. And on the outside of the bend, right here, is another benchmark. This one says U.S. Coast and Geodetic Survey reference mark, and then inside in the middle it says Stony Man number 1, 1933, and the arrow is pointing to the Stony Man benchmark, which is up near the top of the mountain. The arrow is pointing that way. It's hard to see through all those trees, but that is Stony Man Mountain over there. This is a map of today's hike. The quadrangle name is Old Rag Mountain, 1994, and it was a bushwhack looking for any remains of the Sexton Shelter. I parked here at the Pinnacles Picnic Ground, which is mile marker 36. Got on Skyline Drive, hiked down about maybe, I don't know, half a mile to this turn in the road here, and on the south side of the turn right here on the inside, if you push in here, you'll find the remains of the old road that goes down into this area. You follow it down, and then you'll reach a point where it branches left or right. First thing I did was take the right branch, which brought me over to this dot right here, which is the old pump house. Got some pictures of that. Then I backtracked to here, and headed over in this direction and basically explored this whole area here. This is the location based on the 1929 map that I'll show you in a minute. And I pretty much found it in that area there. Not too far away and slightly downhill, I found a spring. And also in this area, I found a piece of an old clay pipe laying around. Then basically came back up this way. Then I crossed over Skyline Drive over into this area right here and looked for and found that Stony Man reference mark over in here. And then I hiked back to my car. Now, the location I got off, this is Stony Man 1929. And here you'll see it says Sexton Shelter. That's the point that was on the map. After I bushwhacked down there and looked around, I decided where I thought it probably was located, and that ended up being the very tip of that arrowhead right there. So it's very, very close. Now, let me show you a couple of more things here. This is a picture of the Sexton Shelter. Built in 1930. I got this picture from a website called Friends of Shenandoah Mountain. Now you'll notice it's made out of stone, and it's not the typical gray stone that you see a lot of other structures in the park, made out of. So I'm not sure where this stone came from. It could have come out of a quarry. I didn't find any of this stone laying around down there. So I think when they took the shelter down, they reused the stone and maybe carted it off somewhere else. Now, this shelter has an interesting history. There was actually 3 of these shelters, none of which currently exist. The first one is the one I just showed you a picture of, which was built, it was a stone shelter built in 1930. And it's located, like you saw on the map, just below the Pinnacles Picnic Area. And a Dr. Roy Sexton donated the money, so they named it after him. That was in 1930. 1935, Shenandoah National Park is established. The Park Service decided they didn't want that shelter there anymore, so it was pulled out of there in 1936. The next year, they built another shelter out of wood, out of logs, but they didn't build it inside Shenandoah Park. They built it on the other side of the Shenandoah Valley in an area called Ramsey's Draft Wilderness along Jerry's Run. So that one was used from 1937 until 1966. It was hit by lightning and burned down. The third shelter, so they rebuilt it at the same site where the second shelter was. This time they decided they were going to haul in timber and not cut down any more trees. So they used a bunch of Percheron draft horses to haul the timber in. So that was 1968. In 1984, this area, Ramsey's Draft Wilderness, it was designated as a wilderness area, which forced the removal of this shelter. So they dismantled it in 1985, and they turned around, and the same horses, some of the same horses that hauled the timbers in, turned around and hauled them back out again in 1985. Today, nothing remains of any of these shelters. I hiked to the location of the second and third shelter in Ramsey's Draft, and there is a chimney and a concrete pad that still remains along Jerry's Run. This was a short hike, 1.6 miles with a total ascent of 236 feet. And that was the hike for today.